Good afternoon, everybody. I wasn't going to do a video on this little journey, but my brand new iPhone decides that it doesn't like to play YouTube videos very well. So we're going to do the video now instead of later. So this video we're going to do 5 very unsexy things to have readily available in an emergency situation. Now this could be your run-of-the-mill, let's just say localized disaster like an earthquake or series of large tornadoes, or just one large tornado that rips through your town and you've got to help people out or help your family. Or you could go up as large as you would like in catastrophe ratio, but these are 5 things that basically, when people talk about preparedness, they're not a lot of fun. I mean, people out there mention them quite a bit, but I think it's important to go over them again and kind of have people focus on them, because they're not overly expensive, and without them you could have a lot of issues on your hands. So number 1 is a good pair of boots. A lot of people try and look around on the internet and find his best bargain military boots that they can, and then maybe they just sit them in their closet. But I think it's a good idea to buy a pair of boots and wear them all the time. Obviously, if you can't wear boots at work or something like that, or you need another specific kind of shoe when you're doing whatever it is you do professionally, but just wear them when you're out and about, you're running errands or doing chores on your property or whatever it might be. But discount boots are probably not the way to go, and I have done that before. Got a killer clearance deal, right? And I was wearing the darn things all the time, and about 2 months in, the zipper just shredded right off of it, and they're worthless now unless I buy a new zipper and cut the old one out and sew the new one in. And at this point they just kind of sit in my shop, and I don't use them at all. If I need to, I keep them around because the soles are still good and whatnot. But both zippers were very poorly made, and I had issues with both, and they were fairly comfortable, but they obviously weren't very durable, because I wasn't doing anything like climbing mountains or going on 4 or 5 mile hikes in them. So they weren't rigorously tested enough, and they failed. And so if I were to actually rigorously test them, I'm sure they would fail miserably. And so going the discount boot route is probably not the best way to go. For you hunters out there, or hikers or climbers, you're more aware of this. And I know a guy who buys his expensive hunting boots, and then once the moisture wicking kind of fades on them, he puts those in, he wears them. He's a carpenter, and so he'll wear those as his work boots, and he buys a new pair of hunting boots, and so he's always got 2 fairly functional pairs of boots. And he's not doing that for preparedness reasons. That's just he's justifying getting the use out of what would be a $240 pair of boots, right? So footwear is a must. If you have to run around, and we saw this just recently down with the hurricanes, you have to run around and help people out. You're trudging through water, you don't know what's underneath the water. It could be jagged metal. You could, if all you've got is a pair of business dress shoes, a pair of flip-flops, and a pair of thin slate Nikes, you're not going to be taking care of your feet the way they need to be taken care of, and you're going to have a lot of problems from that. So boots aren't very sexy. They can be a little pricey, but you need them. You need a good pair of them. And they don't have to be the full high tops. They could be mids. It's all good, right? As long as they're durable and functional for what you have to do. Second is eyewear. A good pair of sunglasses with the I haven't got the little strap that goes on any of my sunglasses, but I'm gonna pick up a pair of those, so that if they fall off your face, you don't lose them. They're there around your neck. But your eyes are extraordinarily important. Obviously, an eye injury can put the best laid plans to waste in a hurry. And so if you have to run around and help people out, your eyes are extraordinarily important. Obviously, an eye injury can put the best laid plans to waste in a hurry. And so if you have to run around and help people out, your eyes are extraordinarily important. Obviously, an eye injury can put the best laid plans to waste in a hurry. and that doesn't really need any further explaining, I don't think. But whether you're dealing with, high winds, whether you're dealing with, digging through debris, trying to get to somebody, whether you're getting, if you're in some kind of situation where you're getting shot at, even if a bullet doesn't hit you and it hits a piece of debris near you, it shoots off little shards, whether it's little pieces of concrete or rock or wood if it strikes a tree or whatever, and those things again can strike you in the eye and end a good day pretty quickly. So you need to make sure you have a solid pair of eyewear, and again, wear it all the time. Make sure it's comfortable. Everything has to be comfortable, otherwise it's going to sit in your closet or on top of a shelf somewhere. So make sure that's up to snuff on what, whatever needs you might have. Just wear it day in and day out and get used to the feeling. And if you're like, man, these things really rubbing me in the wrong way, then you know that you're going to have to get a different pair, and you might as well do that while the getting's good. Third would be a watch, not a watch for style. I went through like 3 or 4 watches and they all broke, and I finally got a G-Shock. Well, my wife bought me a G-Shock for my birthday. Gosh, I think it was 2 years ago now, and thing's a beast. I wear it nonstop, even when I'm doing chores, whatever I might be doing, I wear it, and it gets beat up pretty good. And it's got some minor scratches on it, but all in all, I've had 0 issues with it. Keeping time, wear it in the shower, wore it in the pool. The G-Shock brand is sported by the Navy SEALs. Now, I'm sure this isn't to the quality that the Navy SEALs wear, but needless to say, it is solar. It's got satellite time, so you can change all the different time zones. But if you have an instance where you're uncomfortable keeping your phone out, or if there's not any cell service, you don't have your phone on you, it can be important to coordinate time. And because in a disaster situation, if your adrenaline's pumping and you're all over the place, you might not be able to keep time in your mind the same way you would normally. So having a good watch that you can coordinate with others on is another one that is not only just beneficial to have during normal times, but can be really important in kind of a chaotic circumstance. I'm gonna drink of water here. Actually, I'm gonna have a B-A-I, decent little energy drinks. They don't have that much caffeine, but we carry them in our restaurant. So, all right, they're not super healthy, but they're better than most. So another number 4 is a surgery bag. I think this is one that a lot of people ignore because they don't know how to use it properly. But there's been plenty of instances where somebody has this on them and they show up at a scene, some kind of terrible car accident or whatever it might be, and the paramedics, are helping multiple victims, and even they run out of the supplies they have on hand, especially if there's a bad bleed out. So if you're there and you can give assistance and you can just say, hey man, this is the bag, I think, what you need is in that left pocket there or whatever. At least you have the materials available for people who are capable of using them in the proper way. So surgery bags are pretty important, and for most things you can go get certified to treat, or you can read about in many different books, and you might as well just get them and then learn how to use it once you know you have it. So that leads into number 5, which is books, right? Books are not sexy. Most people don't read a damn thing. They sit here and listen to podcasts, or they listen to their Pandora radio or whatever it might be. But people rarely make the time. They rather watch their television shows. Rarely make the time to do some reading. Reading is super important. And even if you don't have time or the attention span to read through the U.S. Army medical handbook or something like that, have it, because maybe you do need to freshen up on that knowledge in a situation that might arise. You'd just rather have the materials on hand. a million different books that I find important. I got the Guide to Herbal Medicine, all of James Wesley Rawls' books he's got several nonfiction books about tools and gardening and weaponry and things like that. Various army manuals. The list goes on, but slowly accumulate your library, and you'll find many of these at secondhand bookstores or used on Amazon for crazy cheap prices. I'm not saying go out and spend $40 a book and load up with that. Just like you're trying to be somewhat prepared, you got to be thinking financial preparedness as well, which means trying to be accomplishing the same mission on less dollars, right? So books are definitely a great way to store knowledge outside of your mind that you can accumulate at a later date if the time doesn't allow. So right now I'm trying to read a book a month. I know that doesn't sound like much, but when you're busy, it's a realistic goal, and it's just like anything else, it adds up over time, and hopefully if I make it more of a habit, then I can move to a book every 2 weeks. Some things like medical manuals, you kind of just have to brush up time, because reading a medical manual, from front to back, you're going to have a lot of that information lost in translation. Just as you're sitting there and you're moving from one medical emergency to another and how to address it, they're all going to kind of get jumbled in your brain. So it may be more important to earmark things like medical manuals for different catastrophes, so that you're not trying to look to the index if there is an emergency situation and you need to figure something out in a hurry. Maybe earmark things or put little different color-coded tabs on it depending on the kind of injury. Get creative with it, but other books, go ahead and read through. You do the same thing with your herbal manuals, herbal medicines. You could color code those somehow, so that you can get to recipes for different ailments that might be occurring in a quicker fashion as well. But having them on hand is crucially important, because knowledge is power, and it'd be amazing what you can teach yourself if life depends on it, right? But you don't want to have to be teaching too much of it to yourself while the life is actually in jeopardy. So having those in hand, being somewhat familiar with them, is certainly a good way to start. And for a lot of those things, I always encourage people to try and get certified in minor medical things, if nothing else, so that you're adequate at doing CPR and things along those lines, or giving stitches. I know the what's her name, the frickin' nurse. I don't know why, the Patriot nurse, right? She goes around and she teaches like preparedness medicine all over the country, how to handle traumas and things like that. So look up her classes, could be another one. We've tried to make a couple, and she canceled one, and then another one was just too far of a drive after we thought we were going to make it. So something I'm still working on is taking a more extensive course on medical things, because I struggle in that realm. That's a weakness of mine, and I recognize that. But yeah, so those are the 5. You could make this list probably 10 times as long, right? But there's just 5 basic unsexy things that people kind of don't prioritize. And so watch, boots, sunglasses, surgery bag, and book library to keep at home. All right, that's it for now. Thanks, guys.